good points in his homework, and then we're down and down and down and down. That's the first piece of bad news. The second piece of bad news is next week's homework requires this week's homework to be working. Okay? Now, you have two choices. One choice is you tell me, grade what I've already submitted. I'm not going to rework it tonight or the next night. In which case, I'll fix it for you so you can move on to the next assignment with a perfect copy of this. Okay. The other choice is you spend another day or two and you go through this and get it working. All right. So I'll go through this and give you an opportunity to ask questions if there's anything that's blocking you from finishing it other than spending time on it. The idea here was to create one of these data lists and add an active button here. And each of these rows is filled with data from a read to the database. And one of the things that's here you don't see is the product ID. And when you click this by, we're going to pass the product ID for whichever row you're in. And then we're going to try to buy it. And we're going to pretend like we check your credit card, and we're really going to check our inventory and make sure we have it. So I'm going to go not slow, but not too fast. I would really like you to get any questions you have out of the way. So let's just look at this. I'm looking at design view. What I have here is, inside of this box is the page. The rest of this is the master page. Now, the weird thing that's going on here, which probably would confuse you, is the master page is putting a background image, but then I'm overloading in my actual page a different background image. So I'm actually putting one on top of the other, which is why this is not showing. I should go to my master page and remove this, but anyhow. So what do I have here? I have a little title, I have 3 text boxes to get information, and I have one of these repeating guys, which is called a data list. So if we look at the code, here's my heading, then I have a div, and then I have this thing called a data list. And the data list goes from up there to down here. And inside of it, I have this thing called a separator template, and all that does is draw a line between the elements, okay? So just for a couple of seconds, I'm just going to get rid of that to make this even easier to look at. Now, this item template in here is literally, it's any HTML you want to put in there. And you can put immediate mode C# code in there and have it replace that with whatever the C# runtime system says it is when this page is being read. This page will be pulled off the disk on the server. It'll be a bunch of HTML. It'll go through the ASP processor. The ASP processor will look for these tags, and whenever it sees one, it says, at this moment, what is the value of CDID? And it turns out, because we did a database read, CDID has a value, artist has a value, price has a value, title, they all have values. So if all I wanted to do was to show the part number, let's just do this to make this even easier. I better not do that because it would kind of break the bottom. Oh, but if I do that. So what it's doing is it's going through and it's writing one row of data, because that's all I have in that item template is one row of data. And it's writing out pure text, because that's pure text that I have. There's not really even HTML. And then it's grabbing a value for each row. This data list on the C# code we'll look at in a minute is connected to the reader object. And when this page is loaded, the reader object reads SQL, gets the value for all the part numbers, and then as the reader object is connected to this display object, as the display object starts displaying, it's getting a fresh row for each row. That's what it's for. It's for displaying data. Okay, is that clear? Is anybody not having a problem with that? So that's just displaying data. This is not interactive. You can't click on this. It won't do anything. So now let's go back and undo my everything I ripped out of there.
Hey Kurt, when you created the project, did you use a certain template?
Yeah, an ASP form.
Web form?
Yeah, an ASP web form. Yeah, absolutely. You'd be in trouble. I did an empty one.
You did empty.
So probably I created a
ASP.NET, something or other, right?
let me see exactly what I
Is it
created.
a bore and then empty and then?
So I start a new project. And then I'm going to say I want a web project. Then I say I want an ASP.NET web. Then I hit OK. And then here, I'm saying I want an ASP, but I'm going to say empty. Now the reason I'm saying empty is, if I say I want a web form, it brings in a whole bucket full of stuff, including authorization. So I say empty, and there's no authentication, which is good. And then I say OK. And now it has the structure, but there's no pages in it. Please, sneeze out loud. Don't plug your nose up. I don't want you to blow your eardrums out. We can
Those aren't the
tolerate
ones I
sneeze.
did. That's week 8, we're on week 7.
So then, in order to make this do anything, the first thing I'm going to do, because I want to use master pages, is I right click and I say add.
That's what
And then
no,
I
we
say,
want 420. That's like Charlie.
unfortunately, I want something that's hiding up there.
So I was that one
Do
for
I-
this class.
You can do
Yeah,
Control
try to
Shift
get-
A.
And then
Huh?
Control Shift A will give you a new.
I didn't see
for Charlie.
Well, you have to get out of that menu.
It's not changing.
If I just say Control Shift A, it's going to bring
It's like, oh.
Oh, that's freaky. Okay, cool. All right, so I want a web form, which is it's kind of hiding down here. It says web form master page. And I add that. And then I'm going to do whatever you just said. What'd you say?
Control Shift A.
Control Shift Add, I guess is what that stands for. And then I'm going to add a web page
No, it looks like it's
with master page. And I'll call that home or default or whatever the homework said. And then it says, what master page do you want? And then I click the master page that I just created. And now that page uses the master page. I'm going to get out of that project. And I'm back over here. Okay, so this item template has a row for part number, it has a row for title, it has a row for artist. It has a row for price. So if I leave that stuff and get rid of this button silliness, now it's going to display pure text plus these recent values for all those values. One row for each row of the database. And because I took my separator out, it's all jammed together. Any questions on that? So that's just displaying. And now, let me back this up completely. Okay, now I have, oops, I don't want to do that. I put my separator back in. Now I'm going to add this thing here. This is called a link button, and I'm going to spread it over multiple lines. It's happy to be spread over multiple lines. This is, we're putting an ASP object inside of an ASP object. And that's the complication, because this object will generate events which will go to that object. They won't go to us. So I defined this object called a link button. Give it a name. I'm not sure where to use the name. Because it's an ASP object, it says run at server. What should it show? It should show the word by. That's whatever you want it to show. And then you get to pass two things. You get to pass, this CSS is just to make it look pretty, ignore that. You get to pass a name, a command name argument, and a command argument. This is any text string you want to put in there, and this is any object data you want to put in there. And what I'm doing there is I'm grabbing, just like I'm displaying the current value for that one row of data, the CDID, I'm also grabbing for that one row of data the current list price. So if I have 10 CDs in there, I have 10 replicated pieces of HTML. I mean, if I go to the source on this page, you'll see there's 10 replicated pieces of HTML, each one of them repeating that, and each one of them with a different number literally there. I'm going to do that because maybe I've never done that before. If I hit source, what actually gets sent down there is row after row, 10 of these, and you know, all this formatting, and it turned it into a table with rows, table rows, and then it shoves in this HTML, and you see the values, big scene, oh, the price is over here, $12.99, Dark Sky Paradise, Artist, Big Scene, etc. The ASP processor has replaced all that immediate mode C# code with pure text. So it comes down as nothing but HTML and pure text. But it does have this button thing. And that button is probably auto-wired up with JavaScript code we didn't have to write to generate an event, which is caught, and then generate another event, which we actually operate on. So what we're going to do, we're going to have 10 link buttons in this form, and then when you click one of them, through some magic, we'll get alerted in another method over in the C# code. And in order to know which of the 10 buttons it is, well, no, in order to know which button you clicked, we check what is the by command. Because I might have had another button here that was called the delete command, and another button called get more details. I could have multiple buttons here. And then your code has to check which button was it that was clicked. And you check that by the command name. And then we pass this one piece of information, and this is really kind of hacky here. I'm passing back, this turns into a string. When this gets sent down to the client, it's going to be a CDID string with a space and a price as a string. And you'll see now I'm going to go over there and separate that into two fields. So I'm taking two pieces of data and I'm concatenating them with a space. It's pretty ugly. And for your homework for next week, you also have to add another field in there because I want you to pass back a third field. So you'll just do another plus and add another field. what we really should do is we should probably create an object and give it those values and then pass back the object and then use the object properties. But I don't want to spend time on that.
Or you could just give it one little piece of information like an ID and then have the object in the data and look up the object.
Yeah, I could do a SQL query and re-look it up, but I have the data right there, so it seems a little sad to bang on. Now, the other thing is, how do you get this thing to, if we go look at the code, which is in the page behind, here's this event method. It's called CD data list, which is the name of that data list, and it has an item command. That CD data list can generate 10 or 15 different events. The one event we care about is something called an item command. So how do we get it to generate this method and give us that data? Well, we'll look at that in a minute, but for now, it automatically gives us an object. All events do this. All events pass something called object and something called E. The object it's passing back is a source, so that'll tell us who sent it to us. We don't actually use that. And then we have this command event argument E. So we check that E argument, say E command name. Was that the buy button? We set that over there. We said command equal buy. If we said it equaled buy X, we'd have to test for buy X. Now again, because we only have one of them, we don't really have to check to see which one it was. We could just do this code and assume it's the only event. That would be ugly. The next person who wanted to find the code would be confused and what's broken. All right. So that gives me that. And then what do? I do the string manipulation to take those two strings I concatenated and I split them back into two variables. So now I have temp string is equal to the, I get that out of the phone box, and then blah, 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 blah. Text my SQL by equal to text string. Okay, so what do? I have temp string is the cost center. And then new string is this thing called tempstring.trim. And what I do is I take that and I trim it to get rid of leading and trailing spaces. That's just a good idea. That way you don't get confused when you compare it to some other number. Okay. And then I have this string called the no space string. So I replace the space that was in that string with a blank and got rid of any spaces that were in there. That way, I think if somebody had like a credit card or something and then they put spaces in it, you know, get rid of all the spaces. So that's just good hygiene. And then, now that I've finally done that, I can convert that into an integer, and that's the credit card number. So that was just massaging that credit card number to get rid of spaces, leading, middle, and make it a true number that we can then check. Right. And then I do the same thing. I get the phone number, which is a text box. Again, I trim it. Again, I get rid of any spaces. And then again, I convert it into a phone number. Okay? So now I have label results.text. Now this is where it gets interesting. I just got those two pieces of information. Now I'm going to go off and call my SQL routine. And I'm going to pass a bunch of arguments in, and it's going to return